Well, good afternoon. I'm Chris Scherer, Member Communications Director of the Society of Broadcast Engineers and the co-host of this month's episode of the SBE WEBxtra, the SBE chapter of the web. This is a monthly SBE meeting usually held on the third Monday of the month. The SBE is the Association for Broadcast and Multimedia Technology Professionals, with about 5,000 members, mostly in the U.S., but also around the world. The SBE WEBxtra is sponsored by Katrine. Katrine, unique experience, individual solutions, reliable performance. The host of today's SBE WEBxtra is SBE Board member Kirk Harnack, who is also the chair of the SBE Social Networking Committee. Hello, Kirk.
Hi, Chris. Thank you very much for that great introduction and prep for the show. Today on our WEBxtra, we have a guest who Chris, you arranged for, and glad to have him with us. Our guest today is Chris Tarr. We have two Chris's on the show, Chris Scherer and Chris Tarr. They're spelled differently, but you can't know that from just pronouncing it. Let's bring.
Well, yeah,
Chris.
Scherer and Tarr are very different, right? That's
you're right. Yeah.
Chris.
Let's bring Chris Tarr in. Chris, we're going to talk about something about the Mentor Program. And before you tune away, folks, Chris has some really good information about the Mentor Program. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Chris, in a few minutes, we're going to bring you in and talk about it. Can you give us a little tease? What's cool about the Mentor Program these days?
We get to train the next generation of engineers, or at least
help train.
That's right. That's my tease. Yes, we're not training; we're helping to train.
Good deal. Good deal. And mentoring is so critical. You can learn things in school. You can learn things from a book. You can do what I did and learn things about electronics and broadcast equipment by shocking yourself until you figure out where all the electrons hang out. But that's not the best idea either. And I did have a couple of mentors along the way. So before we get into all that, Chris Scherer is here. He's the Member Communications Director with the SBE. Chris, you've got some update information for us.
Yes, I do. I have your SBE member update for July 19th, 2021. This year, the SBE launched a new series in webinars by SBE, the 2021 IP Networking Series. The first 6 parts are available. Part 7, IP Network Monitoring, airs later on this month on July 22nd. Wayne Pacina is leading all those webinars. On July 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern, Paul Schulens presents Drones for Tower Inspection. Paul uses small unmanned aircraft systems with gyroscopically stabilized optical and infrared cameras to safely and affordably detect problems on towers. Looking ahead to August and September, Part 8 of the 2021 IP Networking Series, which will be IP Network Troubleshooting, will be presented on August 19th. And on September 23rd, SMPTE 2110 Basics will be presented. For information on these and all the webinars by SBE, go to sbe.org/webinars. The next SBE certification exam window at local chapters is the week of August 6th to 16th. That application deadline is passed, but the next local chapter exam window after that is in November. Applications to take an exam then are due to the SBE National Office by September 10th. And a reminder, if a local chapter exam is not convenient for you or just not possible for some reason, private proctoring is available. Just contact Megan at the National Office and she can work with you on those arrangements. The new SBE Specialist Certification, ATSC3, is available. If you're working with ATSC 3.0, then add the ATSC 3 Specialist letters to your professional title. More information on SBE certification is online at sbe.org/certification. And finally, chapters meeting virtually should still report those meetings to the national office just as you would an in-person meeting. These meetings count toward the minimum 5 held per calendar year that are necessary to qualify for an annual chapter rebate. And that is your SBE member update for July 19th, 2021. Kirk?
Thank you very much, Chris Scherer. Appreciate that terrifically. And Chris, we've got a topic today that, in my time as a contract engineer, even back in the 1980s, I would be doing work on equipment and I would be doing it by myself and making money at it. But I always thought, I should be showing somebody else how to do this so that, I had an economic interest so that somebody else could do this, not me changing all the capacitors in the ITC cart machine again, or new pinch rollers, or new heads, or new bearings in the motor and so forth. That's just taking one piece of equipment into account. And I would have loved to have had a mentee or an intern. And so Chris Tarr is here. And Chris, tell us about your relationship with SBE and the SBE's Mentor Program. What do you do?
First of all, way to date yourself with explaining what you were doing to a cart machine. First of all, well, I am at least. There you go. I'm at least for now a member of the board of directors. My term will expire here fairly soon. I had another term several years ago. I think it was 2005. I've always been very active in SBE, and it just so happens that this program was kicked off just before I was asked to come back and help out. Kim Sachs actually really championed the creation of this program, and she ended up having to leave the board. And so I was appointed to the last part of the last session term and took over the program, and then was reelected for another 2-year term. So, really, she got the program off the ground. A lot of us kind of shepherded that and carried it on, mostly because I've been very passionate about mentoring. I know even several years ago, I had an article out about where the future of engineers are going to come from. That's something that is very concerning to all of us. There's no more school for this to speak of. There's no more farm team. A lot of us are getting long in the tooth. A lot of us know how to fix cart machines. So, really, where were these new people going to come from? And we found that there are a lot of IT people that are moving into engineering. And, let's face it, transmitters are very much computers and PA palettes and things like that. So it's fairly easy to get started in that, but it's real difficult to learn the hows and whys and some of these other things with IP, audio, and towers. So we decided, with the SBE to come together and really take some of the skilled engineers that we have that are members and pair them with people who are starting to learn and give them a place to ask questions without, feeling like it's a dumb question or, they didn't, maybe embarrass themselves, or just find somebody who, maybe there's anybody in their area who has that skill to answer those questions. So, we kind of created this clearinghouse of mentors and mentees to put them together and, really help teach the next generation of engineers. And so far, it's worked out very, very well.
You mentioned something, Chris Tarr, that has been bothering me for many years, and that is, where's the next generation coming from? And when you and I started this conversation just before the show started, you revealed a tidbit of information that really surprised me, and about the number of mentees that we have outnumbering the number of mentors that we have. Tell us about that. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, we currently have 40 mentors and 52 mentees, looking at my notes here, which is better than what we were. But really, what we want to do is we want to try to pair skill sets and geographic locations, because that's helpful. If we can see people face to face, there's a lot more teaching opportunities. So, one of the things that we're really trying to do is get a bunch more mentors together, because even if we can't pair a mentor to a mentee, we do have a directory set up that has the mentor names and their skill sets and things. So, for example, if I get a question from one of my mentees about something that I may not be real strong in, I can direct them to one of the other mentors. So even if we don't at the moment actively pair you with a mentee, you're still part of the program and you still have a chance to help. So, right now, unfortunately, we have a lot more radio people than we do TV. So we get some of these people coming in, mentees that want to learn about TV. And I've got, 3 TV mentors who are stacked with 5 or 6 mentees at the moment because they're the only ones who know TV. Or, we have somebody who's on the East Coast paired with somebody in the Midwest because we don't have enough people on the East Coast to pair them with. So, those are kind of the things, that we're really trying to pair with. But as you can see, 52 mentees, that's not a small number. And we're constantly getting new people in. I'm very surprised and happily how well the program is working.
How do young people interested in becoming a mentee, interested in the profession of broadcast engineering, whether it's radio or TV, how do they find out about this program and then know to go to sbe.org/mentor and fill out an application?
Well, we do a lot of outreach. with through Facebook, through chapter newsletters. Chris Scherer sent some things out, so it's still very much word of mouth. But on our webpage we have information about that, and we also put it in with some of our information about certification, because that's a whole other part of the program, and we can talk a little more in depth about that later on. But we have something called Tpt, which is the Technical Professional Training Program, which is like a mentor-mentee program on steroids, where that one has a fee. And what we do is we pair up a mentor and a mentee with the goal of getting certified. And that mentee also has access to all of the SBE webinars. They get a membership, the Member Plus benefit. So it's really another good way to jumpstart your career. But really at this point, it's still word of mouth. We are reaching out. We reached out to Wisconsin Broadcasters Association, some of the other state broadcaster associations, in getting the word out. And hopefully, we're working on some of the to maybe provide scholarships for the Tpt program and things like that.
You mentioned a fee for the TPT, the Technical Professional Training Program, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. So the Mentor Program, there's no fee for anybody involved with that, right?
Correct. For the mentorship program, that's absolutely free. And all you have to do is send an application that has your information, what your area of interest is, and what kind of an overview of what you hope to learn. And we'll find somebody who, as best we can, that matches that, those things that you're looking for. We'll try to find somebody who matches that pretty well and get a good relationship going. I've been pretty lucky. I've had a couple of mentees that really not only were close by, but we're in radio, and so it worked out really well. And my mentees, in fact, one of them was in an interview in a magazine talking about how satisfied he was with the program, because he'd run into situations that he might not know the answer to, and he basically had unfettered access to me, and he could just give me a call or drop me an email, and I would reply to him and give him the information that he needed.
If I might jump in,
yeah,
Chris,
sure.
While the mentor program is free, that is correct. It's free to SBE members. So there is one qualification. You need to be an SBE member, but otherwise there's no additional cost to be part of the mentor program. Just point of clarification.
And do you happen to know what what student membership costs, Chris Scherer?
As I was saying that, I thought he's going to ask me. I want to say
it's less than the full
student
boat,
memberships
right?
are $25 a year, but I need to double check while you and Chris chat a little more.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's not a big push up to be a mentee, and if you're a mentor, you need to be an SBE member to be on the list to be hooked up with a mentee. Chris Tarr. Okay, so we talked about the mentee. When someone's interested in shadowing or learning about broadcast engineering, you mentioned they can choose a radio or a TV track, or hook up with somebody who is in that field. Are there any other fields? We are the Society of Broadcast Engineers, but we also have people in our organization who do broadcast style engineering, but they may not be associated with a licensed transmitting TV or radio station. They may be part of some other content creation entity and still be a member of the SBE. Are there just the two tracks that a mentee would choose?
Well, the tracks are really who we have available. So I do know that we do have, I think we have two mentors who are just video production. So if somebody shows an interest in that, and keep in mind too, you mentioned working for licensed broadcast stations. You don't need to be doing that. We have a couple of mentees who are simply IT guys outside of the industry that want to learn more and perhaps want to change career tracks to become a broadcast engineer. We welcome them all. As long as they're a member, we would love to have you, and we'll try to set you up with somebody with similar interests. But we do have a few people who know social, so we'll try to hook them up that way. And again, there's kind of the specialties, like audio over IP is one of mine, and yours obviously. And so if that's their track, we can certainly hook them up that way as well. So really the limit is simply if we have the mentor that can cover that, but we welcome all of those different tracks, and we'll do our best to pair you up with somebody who's familiar with it.
And apparently Kirk is just
yeah.
aching to train somebody on cart machines, by the way, apparently.
Well, I was 35 or 40 years ago. Not, although audio over IP is something that I am passionate about. I have no desire to teach somebody about AM directionals because I have become weak on those myself. And Chris Tarr, I'm guessing you probably still take care of an AM directional or two, don't you?
Oh yeah, I have more than a few. And I audio over IP, and I don't use any razor blades and China markers anymore, but I could certainly, I could go down that road if you need to.
So, on the one hand, there are more people watching this webcast who would be in a position to be a mentor, probably, right? SBE members that are already a member, probably have been for a while. Tell me about the things that there are qualifications to be a mentor. You need to be a current SBE member, currently in the profession of broadcast engineering, minimum 5 years working in the profession. So, you kind of have an idea of what you're doing. You've done it more than once, probably. Ability to commit to calls every other week with your mentee. I'm sorry, I'm going over a list that you may be going over. But what I'm really curious about, these are all kind of standard stuff. You're going to be a mentor, just on the application, let us know that you fulfill these basic requirements that you might expect. But what psychologically, or desire? What does it take in desire in an engineer to be a mentor? And hey, you may know that, hey, I want to do this, but maybe you got somebody who's on the fence that you'd like to speak to. Hey, dude, you can find, man or woman, you can find an hour every other week or so to talk to somebody. Tell us about that, Chris.
Sure. Well, I think one of the biggest things is, just the fear of, well, I'm supposed to be the smart person in the room, and, they're going to ask me something that I don't know. And again, that's why this is, we really push this. It's a collaborative effort. And, we don't expect as a mentor for you to know everything, which is why we have, this directory of people who have a variety of skills. So if you do come up with something that you can't help with, you can direct them, or you can ask somebody to, that to give you that information to pass along. So, really, it's just a desire to teach. Mark Persons is great at that. He loves to sit down and teach things that he knows, and he enjoys when he sees people where that clicks. So, obviously, you want to have a personality that of patience. And obviously, these people are learning, and it takes a little time to get that across. Also, and I always put, every 2 weeks, that's an informal thing. We have, mentors and mentees that talk once or twice a month. And then I have one of mine that, is just whenever that he has a question, he calls me. So, again, we kind of make it flexible. We are working on giving you topics to talk about. So you can say, hey, it's spring, time for spring cleaning. If you have nothing to talk about, talk with your mentee about spring cleaning and kind of go over some of the things you do to get ready for the summer. And, maybe your mentee has some ideas too that you haven't thought of. So, it really is, it's not I think people sometimes think it's a real formal, educational thing, and it's not. We're not there to train them to be engineers necessarily. We're there to answer questions and kind of help them along and provide them with the resources that they need. In fact, I've done even some career advice. One of my mentees was, looking at kind of moving up and didn't know how to maybe approach the general manager about some things. He, a young guy. So, I've 15, 20 years in management. I was able to kind of sit down and go, well, here's maybe how I would approach it. So it really is kind of it's a fulfilling thing to take these younger people under your wings and really, get them out to fly. And again, it's not a matter of teaching them everything they need to know to be an engineer. It's just being a helping hand, being a resource, being a sounding board.
So I hear you saying that a mentor doesn't have to be an expert at everything. You can be a mentor in your particular area of expertise. Maybe you're really good at TV remote trucks, or maybe you're really good at TV remote technology, live view, or other kinds of technologies that are in use today, maybe with satellite as a backup, or ENG microwave as a backup. So you can teach about that. But if you don't know about audio over IP, you don't have to teach that, right? You teach what you know.
Right. And you don't even need to be an expert or, in a field. just experience. I don't expect, not everybody's going to be an expert in anything. Sometimes you're just kind of a good all around general, been there, done that kind of person. And that's great too. I mean, those are all, will generate legitimate questions. Somebody going, well, indirect method of a transmitter, stuff like that, that is kind of a general knowledge thing. That, I always kind of say the standard I set is if, when you're done with your mentee, if they can go and take the the CBT or the CRO or CTO, and they have enough information to do that, which is very entry level stuff, then I think it's working. And that's the Tpt program. That's actually one of the things that is part of the program. So I think people are intimidated. Oh, I got to be an expert. I'm not really that good at anything. You don't have to be an expert in anything. Just, being able to share that knowledge is what's important.
I gotta believe that being a mentor and kind of doing a little mental prep for your, let's say that your mentee can come spend some time with you, right? I gotta believe that you're gonna end up spending a little bit of time and effort kind of getting prepped for that. And they say that there's the best way to learn about something is to have to teach it, right? Or tell somebody else about it. Whether it's, hey, I've gone and done weather in elementary school classrooms, right? I've been called out to do that, or teach Sunday school or something. Well, you gotta become an expert at whatever you're going to be teaching that day. Do you find that happens to mentors? Do mentors become a little bit better at what they do because they're teaching something?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a two-way street. I know, sometimes, my mentees will come up with questions that I don't have the answer to, so I'll go find out. And so I'm learning in the process as well. So it is absolutely a two-way street. And I get as much out of the program, I think, as I put in. I really, first of all, it's enjoyable and rewarding to sit with these people and teach what I know and answer questions. But some of the questions they come up with and some of the things that they ask, and keeping in mind that they don't have the mentality of we've always done it this way. They'll say, well, why couldn't you do this? You go, you know what? Why couldn't you do that? So I find it just as rewarding that way as well.
Fresh perspective. Yeah. So some mentors are going to have a mentee that maybe they can get together with in person. The mentee comes by, they get a tour. They may even come by every couple of weeks or so for a little additional training. What about if you're a mentor and you're assigned a mentee that's nowhere near you? What does that look like more when you can't get together in person?
Well, there've been a lot of phone meetings. We've used Zoom, we've used FaceTime. I've done it once or twice where I've gone to just do some maintenance at a transmitter site, and I'll throw on FaceTime and show what I'm doing. So there's always opportunities like that. And also keep in mind, a question that sometimes comes up is, occasionally there's a pairing that just doesn't work. The personalities aren't there, or the timing isn't right, or whatever. We're also very good about changing the pairings up. So let's say it's just not working out, or even we've had a case where the year is up in the program goes in 1 year stretches, and this person says, oh, that was great, that was a great experience, great mentor, but I want to change it up. I want to now go with another year with somebody who has some different skills. We can do that as well. So the program is very flexible that way. But as much as we'd like to get people together, which is really what was the original goal, right now, without having people geographically close, it's not always possible. So we do the best with the technology that we have.
And my goodness, we found out in the last year and a half, we've had a lot of technology to teach people things remotely. And heck, at my radio stations, there's, it's a 7-hour drive for me to get to a bunch of my radio stations, and some are in Hawaii and some are in American Samoa. So occasionally we use something like FaceTime to, here, Joey, let me help you put that RJ connector on that Cat 5 cable. I crimp it this way, and let me see that real closely before you crimp that. So I guess we've had a college student swap out some hard drives and some bad SATA cables. So I guess, in a way, I'm already doing that, the mentor thing, just in a less formal atmosphere. What part of you've mentioned a couple of times now that geographic location is important, in that we're a little shy in some locations. Can you tell us where it would be a good place to focus? If you're in the sound of my voice in wherever, Omaha, we need you, fill out an application. Well, where are we shy a little bit?
Well, really everywhere, but East Coast, West Coast are really light.
Mm.
We've got some people in the Midwest, but yeah, East Coast, West Coast especially is where we're light, and also TV. We really need some more TV people involved, and again, we'll love to have anybody participate that wants to participate, but if you're to ask me, really in areas that we need to really bring in some people, it'll be East Coast, West Coast.
Do mentors ever run across an issue with their, let's say, their HR department? Oh, we gotta have indemnification, or we gotta fill out a form for your mentee if that person's going to come in the building and walk through the engineering shop. Do you run across things like that?
I haven't heard of anything yet. We
Mhm.
have been talking about, what the responsibility is with that, and I don't know if I have it written here, but we have gotten Chris Emily involved, and as a nonprofit organization, we do have some indemnity there, some protection from liability.
Mhm.
So we do have the ability to work with places on that, but we really haven't gotten into a situation yet where that's been an issue. And quite frankly, we try to avoid and we want mentors to avoid being in situations where they're going to be getting their hands in anything like that.
Mhm.
It's one thing to be just kind of watching; it's another thing to be participating in anything dangerous. So, um, again, if you want further details on that, we can certainly get it to you. I don't have the notes in front of me, but that is something that we've been working on, and we think we have pretty well addressed.
So I take it that it's not a good idea to ask your mentee to go climb the tower and check that light, or swap out this antenna or coax, or put a new connector on the coax, right? We don't do that.
Well, it depends on how fond you are of the mentee. Yeah, we would prefer that you not do that. This
Yeah.
is really more about learning than doing. And
Okay.
obviously, put it this way. I mean, if it was, look at it as your child. Would you put your kids in that kind of a situation where you're teaching them and going, here, reach your hand in here? You probably wouldn't want to do that, and you wouldn't want to do
Oh,
that in this
well,
case.
heck yeah, Michael. I need 100 RJ45 connectors put on these cables tonight while you're
Well, that's
watching your TV show.
right. I mean, that's one thing to have them do that and train. I mean, that's pretty safe. But again, it's really more about education and not necessarily obviously we don't look at these people as like interns where you're getting free work out of them or anything like that at
That
all.
was
This
my
is
yeah.
very
This is
much
not a free labor program.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
And we absolutely discourage that. This is really about learning and watching and learning and that sort of thing.
So you mentioned a 1 year span that a mentor would typically be connected to a mentee. Is there a time of year when that starts, or can you just start that whenever during the year you want to?
Well, the 1 year is usually I want to say September, October is when we renew the program, but you can really
Mm.
join anytime. And I have my big spreadsheet sitting over here that has the list of mentors and mentees, and we're getting applications all the time from mentees to join the program, and we'd like to get them started right away. But basically, what we do is once a year we get a phone call, first of all, with all the mentors. To basically talk about what's working and what's not working and changes that we need to make to the program. Then we have a call with the mentees asking the same things: what's working, what's not working, what would you like to see? And then we have one more call with all of them. And again, this we want the program to work. And we have a committee that talks about these things, but we're not in the trenches doing it. Some of us are. But really, the more input we get, the better, because we want the program to be valuable. We're the only ones doing it, so
Mhm.
there is always a
Mhm.
lot of feedback, and that's kind of what that 1 year thing is we kind of look at that as a pause and say, okay, now there's been a year. How's it working for you? What are the changes you'd like to see? Do you maybe want to shuffle up, who your mentor is? We just kind of look at that as a reset period. But really, you can join at any time and you can leave at any time. If you feel the program's not for you, we've had mentors and mentees say, hey, listen, this is really not for me. And that's fine. We're certainly more than accommodating.
And there's not a test for either the mentor or the mentee at the end of a year, right?
No, and we try to make it as easy and frictionless as possible. If you want to become a mentor, we're not testing you. We're not, checking references or anything. We take your word for it that if you're wanting to dive in, and we obviously check, what you're saying, how long you've been doing these things and that sort of thing. But we're not going to check your references or anything like that. We're going to trust that if you're going to do this, that you're being honest with us and that kind of thing.
What's typically the age range of the mentees?
Surprisingly, it's great. It's fairly young. 20 to we have a couple outliers, but 20 to 25. I mean, these are our younger adults who we get a lot of people who are in IT, who maybe are doing IT and radio, who see this other stuff and go, boy, I would like to try that. I think that's really interesting stuff, and that's also kind of where we recruit from, because as you know, I mean, there's a lot of IT involved now in RF. And so these are really good candidates for the program because there's so much involved with that they're already part of the way there. And once we explain to them, this wasn't always the case, but nowadays it's a career that is fantastic in terms of pay and where you want to live, and there's all these openings and very few people to fill them. So it's a growing career. I mean, as they can automate a station all they want, but somebody still has to make sure the stuff runs. So it's a really good career track for a lot of people. It's not for everybody, as you know, with being on call all the time and that sort of thing. But if you really have radio in your blood and you want something a lot more stable than being on the air, this is a great thing to be doing. So really, that's where we're recruiting is IT people saying, hey, you want, radio is very dynamic. It's a lot of fun. You could be doing some really interesting things other than just sitting at a desk all day. And we find that, 20 to 25-year-olds who may have some experience in that, or maybe we're in a radio station doing internships in IT or promotions or something like that, are going, hey, I want to be part of a radio station. What's a good way to get my foot in the door? And if you're already talented with IT, that's half the battle right there.
It used to be that we got people interested in broadcast engineering. We'd find them through the local ham radio club, maybe at their high school or at their community college, or just from the local ham radio club that wasn't associated with an institution of learning. But that's not as much the case anymore. And IT is so popular, and it's pervasive. It's absolutely everywhere, including broadcast, including radio and television, and any kind of content creation and distribution and execution of said distribution. So yeah, I can see where somebody coming from the IT world, and you and I, Chris, have probably met people from IT who were tasked with doing something with audio, and they didn't know how to do it, and they did it rather poorly, but they didn't know. And maybe they were interested, maybe they weren't interested, and they were tasked without really wanting to. But yeah, I can see where some IT people would say, yeah, I want to know more than just lines of code and hard drives. I want to know, how does this stuff connect to the other stuff that makes it work? So,
well, and nowadays with HD radio and with, everything's IP connected, audio processors, the voice over audio over IP gear, the transmitters, it's all interconnected with networking. And so there's a whole lot of interesting things there to do, and especially if you're the kind of person whose head is in IT. I have a guy who works for me who's an IT guy, but really gets excited when we can do audio over IP and transmitter work with IT stuff. He's really engaged with it. And it's funny you mentioned hams, and it's, ham radio guys, they're in the same boat. There's not a lot of new people coming in. However, some of the recruitment in ham radio is the IP stuff, DMR and wires and that sort of thing. So, our job is to really, kind of, and I use the word quote, make it sexy again. It's really, it's a fun job, and there is so much that you can be doing, but nobody knows about it. That was one of my biggest complaints a couple of years ago, is that these jobs are out there, and they're a lot of fun and they're very rewarding, but nobody knows they exist. You turn on the radio and you don't think about the fact that there's somebody there, making the wheels turn. And, we haven't really done a good job of saying, hey, these are good jobs. These are good careers. And, if you know something, if you're good with IT and maybe entry-level electronics, this is something you could probably do. So it's no longer necessarily how to change tubes and tuning transmitters and things like that with solid-state transmitters. So there's a lot less theory now and more being able to problem solve and troubleshoot. And I'm finding that there's a whole crew of younger IT people who find that stuff fascinating.
Chris Scherer's got a couple of questions. Chris, what's on your mind?
Well, when the mentor program began, it was kind of interesting, as Chris mentioned, that there's the geographic separation between mentors and mentees. I think the ideal was that, yes, everyone would be in the same city, or the pairings would be. So you can only imagine the first year, which actually I handled the program when it first kicked off. We were between education directors. And that was the first thing I encountered, is that I didn't have a single mentor in the same city as a mentee at all. So then it became what made the most logical sense. And I'm sure some of that still exists, because I don't think we have a lot of overlap of mentors and mentees in the same city. Is that still true, Chris?
That is. And so, we've tried to do, same state, maybe the next state over, maybe regionally. And we've been pretty good with that. But yeah, there's still a lot of, I have a mentee in, I want to say, Wyoming, with a mentor in Vermont or something like that. And, again, with distance learning, I don't think it's as big of a problem as we thought it was going to be, but it still would be nice to be able to get people face to face. But yeah, it's still very much a problem.
Well, not necessarily a problem, just a challenge that is, as you've said, technology is easily helping us address that. So that's not really that big of a deal. Let me ask you this. You had noted that some of the mentees, after their year is up, they decide to stick along and go for another year or two. Do you happen to know, how many repeats do we have on the mentee side, people that have sort of re-enrolled, if you will?
I would have to, it's an educated guess, I'd go somewhere around 30 to 40% choose to stay on a little bit longer. And it seems like about 2 years. We have some that have been here, I've been involved in for 3 years, and there are still some names on that list from when I first started. So, we certainly encourage it. We encourage you to stay in the program until you feel like you've gotten everything you need out of it. So yeah, I mean, there are some who have been a year or two. Usually it seems like kind of the average is about 2 years before they move on.
Well, as we say, learning is forever, so there's no time limit involved, right?
Yep, exactly.
I'll go ahead and interject. The SBE WEBxtra this month, we're talking with Chris Tarr, who is the chair of the SBE Mentoring Committee, which oversees the SBE Mentor Program, which has been around for close to 5 years, if I remember now. Chris, you said you've been the chair of the program for 3, and I seem to recall it was a couple of years before that. So we're right around the 5-year mark. There is one more element that I don't think we've touched on yet, and that is the webinars that the Mentor Program puts together for participants. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those?
Absolutely. We try to, at least once a quarter, put together a webinar of, we certainly take input on what you'd like to see, but it's usually, really good, solid, I got to call them 101 courses, very entry-level things like, the basics of tube transmitters, the basics of HD radio, the basics of, ATSC3. So we like to put something together that is, of broad general interest to the mentees. And even for some of us mentors who may not know anything about like the TV side, for some of us as well. But I think that's a really strong part of the program, because there's that little extra in there where, that might not be something that, if you're a radio mentee, to see something in TV or vice versa, these are all included in the program. So you can join in and watch these things and get a better general knowledge of the industry. So I think that's a very good and big component of this program are the webinars that we have for that.
Who are the presenters of these webinars? Are they mentors, or do you look outside for outside sources of information?
It just, again, it depends on, we try to get somebody who's an expert in the field. So sometimes that's a mentor. Jeff Welton from Nautel's been on. We've had Shane Toven, who's very big expert in audio over IP and networking and facilities from EMF. So I think Kirk's maybe has done one. So I've done one on on the tube transmitters. So we try to get somebody who's very knowledgeable in that particular subject, because at the end too, then there's the Q&A and the mentee's opportunity to ask questions. And again, it's a safe, there are no stupid questions kind of thing, because I think sometimes people are afraid to admit that they don't know what they don't know. And we look at this as a very safe place to ask those questions that, may seem, very basic to us, but, may be perplexing to them. So, I think those are very valuable for that reason.
Hey, it's equally safe for the mentors too. The mentors can also say, I don't know.
Sure.
Question.
Absolutely. And I think for a long time in this industry, we, obviously there have been some people who've been great, and I've known Chris and Kirk for forever, and obviously I don't have any problem asking guys like you for advice, but I think there's a lot of, there's still a lot of people out there who are just, imposter syndrome kind of things and that kind of thing, especially now with younger guys getting into the industry, guys and women, that, they're afraid to admit that they might not know something. So, I when I set up the Virtual Engineer many years ago, the website for them, that was the same kind of thing. The ability to share that with people who might be afraid to ask or might not know, to know that there's a resource out there. And that's what the mentorship program is it's a place where you get an opportunity to learn, and you get an opportunity to ask questions of people who know, and you don't have to be afraid of asking those questions.
If someone has an idea for one of your webinars, I'm assuming they can contact you or Education Director Kathy Oros, probably again through the mentor page, sbe.org/mentor.
Absolutely. We're always looking for not only, webinar ideas, but even, subjects to talk about, just as topic, I like to call them topic starters, where, maybe there's, and everybody has this, you get to kind of a slow point with your mentee where, there's not a lot to talk about. Maybe you've gone over a lot of things. So we always look for nice topic starters to say, hey, if you haven't lately, why not talk to your mentee about EAS or, ATSC3 or HD radio. So we're always looking for ideas for that too. And if you are a member of the program, obviously we're always looking for feedback on what we can do better.
Very good.
I feel like I'm much more up to date on the mentor program, and I'm volunteered in the mentor program myself. I've not been paired with anybody yet, and so I would eagerly accept that if you guys can figure out somebody in the Nashville area who is of an experience level that I could actually be helpful to them. That'd be good.
And wants to know more about those cart machines.
That's right. I could teach a little bit more than that. I did do one of the webinars for the mentor program. So I was very pleased to be able to do that and share whatever knowledge I have there. Chris Scherer, have we got anything else to ask? I think I feel like I'm pretty up to date now.
I think we have covered quite a bit of ground. And, the funny thing about cart machines, we used to say they're sort of like an 8-track. You can't even say that anymore and be understood what you're referring
That's
to.
right.
So
That is
definitely an antiquated technology, but
Chris Tarr, is there anything that we haven't asked you about you'd like to add about the mentor and mentee program? Not hearing you. You might be muted.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I was just showing you that nifty button and I didn't hit it. I did want to mention again the Tpt program, which is, that is, as I mentioned, it's kind of like the the mentorship on steroids. And the goal of that is really a quick start into the industry. That one is a little more, we're talking about how there's a kind of the mentorship, which is asking certain questions, being a sounding board, whereas the Tpt program is really more of a training program. The goal of that is for to learn enough to be able to take one of those entry-level certifications. And in fact, the fee for that certification is included in the fee for the program. And so it's a little more, I don't want to say intensive, but it's a little more thorough. And there's a little more of a guideline on what to train and what to talk about, because really you cover the topics that are being covered in these entry-level exams. So that's a great one. We have actually Gary Morrill was the person who created this, and it's just fantastic. We have a couple of places where the actual radio groups are paying the fee for these people to participate in the program, because it's valuable to them as well. It's a good, like I said, it's a good kickstart to the industry. So we have had some radio groups actually pay the fee to participate in the program.
So the
I'll
TPT
throw
program,
in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're going to clarify the TPT? I was about to do that just in case.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. As is mentioned, if you're enrolled in the Technical Professional Training Program, you are enrolled in the SBE Mentor Program, but you also you as the individual get access to webinars by SBE. So you're basically getting a Member Plus SBE membership. You get a copy of the SBE Broadcast Engineering Handbook, which we've published a couple years ago, a hard copy reference, which is ideal for hands-on use in designing and maintaining facilities. And as Chris mentioned, it includes the fee to take the Certified Broadcast Technologist SBE certification exam at some point, usually about a year later, as part of your TPT enrollment fee.
Good deal. All right. Yeah, TPT was designed so that you didn't have to do a la carte. You could have a program right there to get you up to speed on some training, to go ahead and get your knowledge up, and then pass some basic certification exams from SBE.
As Flo would say, it's a bundle.
It's a bundle. That's right. Chris, you mentioned, and I was going to ask you to show this thing, although maybe the light's not bright enough. I wanted to see this gadget that you have as a little tip we'll leave people with.
Sidebar.
I actually, this was I think it was a Kickstarter project, and it is called Mute Me. And let me just get it kind of untangled here a second. And it's this little guy here, and you can't really see the color on it. Right now it's red because it's live, and I have it kind of a pulsing red. And then if you want to mute, you just tap the touch sensitive top like this.
And now it's blue,
and
now it's red.
And it was still, it was green. So
green. Okay.
Strangely enough, they're obviously not radio people, because they had it reversed. Red was muted and green was unmuted. Like, where in radio do we do that? Like, red's always live.
Yeah.
But it was, these are really neat little guys, and they interface with just about everything. And what I really like about it is, instead of trying to reach over here, remembering to mute whatever I have on my head, I can, and it does a little beep in my ear to tell me that it's active or not, and then So yeah, it's my cool little gadget. Problem is sometimes you forget that you've done it, and then you go to talk and it's muted. But there you go.
You should attach a strobe light to it. Oh no, that'd mess up the camera. so it's a USB device, but there's an app that runs on your computer that actually does the actual muting and the little beep in your ear. Right?
Yeah, and you can program the colors, and if it's going to flash or not flash, and there's different levels of interaction too. So like on Zoom, you have complete control. So if you click mute on Zoom, it'll trigger the light and all kinds of things. So it's brand new. It was a Kickstarter deal. I just was very interested in it because it looks so neat, and so I long ago helped fund the project, and I got 2 of them. So they're nice little guys.
So instead of a little beep, see, I would modify that project so that when you mute yourself, a little voice would say, "You are muted," and then when if you start talking and you're not unmuted because it detects them, it would say, "You're muted," and it would say that before your colleagues say it.
I bet, because it's so early in development, the software I think is a 0.1 or something, that early on, that, they might be able to do that. You never know.
Sure. I'm sure they could.
Ask for a tally output. So those of us with on-air lights, like I do and Kirk does, we can trigger our own on-air lights just for the fun.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, we need a GPO. We can run a Henry Super Relay or a one of those things. All right, this has been fascinating, Chris. Thank you for being with us and bringing us up to date on the Mentor program. And I'll be in touch with Kathy Oros and mention to her, okay, I'm more enthused than ever. I know I've been on the list, but I've also been kind of call me if you need me. But now I'm
that's how you are listed on our list. Is
call me
if you need him. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be under the mentee that gets me, but we'll give it a good effort. All right. Chris Tarr, thanks again. Chris Scherer, why don't you take us out of this program? I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely. Well, this has been the SBE WEBxtra, the SBE chapter of the web. We present this monthly, and we hope you'll join us each time. We'll post the replay on our YouTube channel, usually within a day or so. The SBE WEBxtra is sponsored by Catrine, whom we thank for the support. Catrine, unique experience, individual solutions, reliable performance. If you hold SBE certification, viewing the SBE WEBxtra qualifies you for 1/2 point in category G, that's attendance, just like attending a local chapter meeting. And that does it for this installment of the SBE WEBxtra from the Society of Broadcast Engineers, the Association for Broadcast and Multimedia Technology Professionals. Thanks again to our guest, Chris Tarr, and on behalf of Kirk Harnack, we'll see you next month.